Within the category of social issues, an article with no specific title but a headline read as 17 Killed in Mass Shooting at High School in Parkland, Florida, was written by Elizabeth Chuck, Alex Johnson, and Corky Simasco on February 14, 2018. To begin, on February 14, 2018, a mass shooting occurred on the grounds of Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. This atrocious event left 17 students and teachers dead, 14 wounded, and 5 with life-threatening injuries. I chose this event for the reason that this shooting led to a student-led movement called March for Our Lives in support of legislation to prevent gun violence in the United States. Despite the negative attitude towards the movement, 26 states have implemented a gun safety law, not only to protect its citizens, but to remember those lost in the Parkland shooting as well as the other shootings prior to this. Furthermore, the exigence is displayed in the first paragraph when the authors write, "The teen gunman accused of opening fire with a semi-automatic rifle at his former high school in Parkland, Florida, has been charged with 17 accounts of premeditated murder." As many of you know, this tragic incident took place on February 14th, also known as Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is about expressing affection towards those who love and feel loved by. However, a school shooting is the antithesis of expressing love. The line of reasoning is presented in an upside-down triangle structure. This structure supports the most important information towards the beginning of the article and the extra information towards the end. Because of this structure, unity and coherence is conveyed in a way that leads the audience from the most crucial information to the least. The overarching thesis manifests various interpretations of the text as the audience expresses many emotions towards the situation. Furthermore, the choice of words used in this article amplifies the gloomy tone of the text. One example is shown when the article uses the terms mentally disturbed rather than other combinations of the words to describe a person with mental challenges. These words are used in light to respect those who may struggle with their mental health. However, it reinforces the dreary tone because the authors are referring to the shooter being mentally disturbed. In conclusion, the message of this article is to be aware of your surroundings and to live a realistic life, as anything can happen. Another event within the category of social issues is an article entitled Sandy Hook Elementary School Shooting with the headline of Mass Shooting, Newtown, Connecticut, United States. This article was written by Michael Ray on January 18, 2013. To begin, on December 14, 2012, a school shooting occurred at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. After a hectic race to find the classrooms, Adam Lanza shot 3 teachers and 20 students. He then took his own life on the spot. I chose this event because I was curious to see the regulations that would be put in place to prevent a situation like this from happening again. Because of the event, Barack Obama called for an updated conversation involving the Second Amendment rights. The Second Amendment discusses the right to keep and bear arms. Additionally, the National Rifle Association took action by implementing armed guards into all American schools. The spark for formulating this article was the shooting that took place at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Furthermore, the line of reasoning is presented in chronological order paragraph form. Because of this, the overall message can be readily seen, which enhances the flow of the article. In addition, the overarching thesis evinces a multitude of perspectives as the audience is each affected in contrasting ways. Moreover, when information from the beginning to the end of the article is compared, the tone slightly shifts. Towards the beginning of the article, in paragraph 1, Michael Ray states, Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, also called Newtown shootings of 2012, mass town shooting in Newtown, Connecticut on December 14, 2012 that left 28 people dead and 2 injured. In this setting, the tone is depressing as it makes the audience feel complete sorrow for those involved in this tragic massacre. However, the tone starts to shift to serious once government officials start to take action on preventing this incident from occurring again. In paragraph 8, Ray writes, the National Rifle Association responded by advocating the introduction of armed guards into all American schools. All in all, the message of this article is to be grateful for every moment offered to you as life can change rapidly.
The Flint water crisis falls under healthcare and safety. The headline of the article titled, The Flint Water Crisis, What's Really Going On, that was written by Adrian Dingle in December of 2016, says, when Flint's water started smelling foul, tasting odd, turning orange, and the children drinking it started to develop nasty skin rashes, there was clearly something terribly wrong. But what? That was a mystery that only chemistry could solve. The story details how when Flint officials wanted to save money, they switched the source of the city's water from the Detroit system to the Carnegie Water Authority. But KWA was not ready to deliver the water, so officials decided to use water from the local Flint River. Problems then started, as the water contained trihalomethanes. Lead entered into the Flint's water as well because it was not treated with phosphate ions. Through chemistry, science were able to get to the root of the problem, but long-term consequences and health issues for thousands of children have not altered. I chose this event because it took place so close to home and had an impact on so many people. The spark that led Dingle to write this article was his will to inform and educate the community about the science behind the crisis. The writer, Adrian Dingle, has taught chemistry to high school students since 1990 and has written numerous books regarding chemistry, one of which won the 2014 American Institute of Physics Communication Award. Since the story is organized in chronological order, it is easy to follow and understand each component alone, which improves the piece as a whole. The overarching thesis that is present throughout the text is that the study of chemistry helped to get to the bottom of the tragedy that had an enduring impact on the residents of Flint. The author uses science or logic to give reasoning behind each conclusion that is made. When Dingle talks about the serious health consequences this water had on Flint residents, it also takes an emotional toll on the reader. When it comes to the credibility of the author, Dingle has done a lot of work with chemistry, and it is the basis for his career. When addressing lead prevention techniques, Dingle includes that these negative polyatomic ions help to create lead phosphate, an insoluble material like crust, on the inside of pipes. The scientific words like this that are used in this article hold extreme significance because they relate back to chemistry and stress the seriousness of the devastation. The category this story falls under is healthcare and safety, and the event is the rise of e-cigarettes across the nation. The headline is, "There's been a lot in the news lately about the serious lung illness linked to vaping," from the story titled, "E-Cigarettes and Juuling, Teen Use Reaching Epidemic Proportions," by Kate Cronin, written on September 23, 2019. In this article, Dr. Kate Cronin addresses the elements of a vaping device. She explains that e-cigarettes are battery-operated, nicotine-dispensing devices filled with chemicals and flavorings that appeal to a younger crowd. Cronin also talks about the Juul, which resembles a flash drive and delivers nicotine levels similar to a cigarette. She then emphasizes that nicotine can lead to heart disease, blood clots, lung problems, and stomach ulcers. Cronin also tells parents to help their kids avoid these e-cigarettes. I chose this event because the e-cigarette epidemic has affected thousands of teenagers around my age, and it is very significant due to the long-term health issues it can lead to. Dr. Kate Cronin, the author, is a pediatric emergency attending physician at Nemours and Alfred I. DuPont Hospital for Children in Wilmington, Delaware, and a medical editor at Nemours Children's Health Media. She loves children and wants them to be happy, which is the spark or motivation for her writing this article. The audience her writing is aimed at would be teenagers and parents of teenagers, as teens are the biggest users of Juul and e-cigarettes, and they need to be aware of what they are doing to their bodies. The line of reasoning is very clear in this piece, as author Kate Cronin starts out by explaining what e-cigarettes are and how they work. Then she goes on to explain what juuling is and the risks of vaping. This helps support the overarching thesis, which is that e-cigarettes are unhealthy and falsely marketed as a healthy cigarette alternative, while in reality they are taking a toll on the teenagers of our generation. The way the line of reasoning is presented is orderly and systematic, generating a nice flow throughout the story. An emotional appeal is also present throughout the story in an effort to hook readers in and emphasize the importance of not participating in this unhealthy habit. The writer of this article is a doctor who works with children, which plays into her credibility. Her word choice impacts the reader due to the emotion it evokes. Towards the end of the article, Cronin says, "Teens can feel invincible and often don't consider the future consequences of the choices they make now." The words used in this sentence alone arouse emotions and make the audience feel as though action needs to be taken.
In the category of social movements, the Me Too movement has sparked immense change throughout the decade. The article headlined, "It's been 2 years since the Me Too movement exploded, now what?" written by Aliyah E. Dastagier in September of 2019, is just one of the 10 articles that our group has analyzed when determining the most important social issues of the decade. Recently, some women have been brave enough to have a voice and inform the public about the tragic time they were forced to go through. This social movement was created in 2006, but became much more popular in this past decade. I chose to learn about sexual assault and the Me Too movement because this is an extremely important and relevant topic in today's society, as there have been many men and women from all over our country victimized or associated with this disturbing act in some way. The Me Too movement, as well as the hashtag #MeToo, is a safe place for survivors to share their stories on social media and within this tightly knit group of survivors. The exigence for the author to write this moving article was the positive change that the Me Too movement has provided for American society. The intended audience of this article is anybody who wants to learn about the powerful social media movement and how it has weakened the stigma around opening up about sexual assault. The line of reasoning in this article supports the overarching thesis because the article presents unbiased information in paragraph form, and each paragraph has a different title, so it is easy for readers to navigate the article to find the information that they desire. The overarching thesis discusses how our articles impact society, and while reading about this movement, you learn about information that is impactful. Furthermore, the organization of this article creates unity and reflects the line of reasoning because the article presents an informative layout where the readers can find any information easily. This article talks a lot about how the Me Too movement has changed the way people think about sexual assault, and the author quotes someone who was talking about the Me Too movement and said, "In one family, 2 other survivors came forward." This quote is an example of syntax because this quote supports the author's claim about the Me Too movement encouraging people to open up about their experiences. Similar to syntax, the author of my article was very meticulous when choosing the words she wanted to use. There are words such as rape, sexual assault, survivor, and speaking openly in the article more than once, and each of these words helps to get the author's message across. The author uses comparison when titling one section, "What has the Me Too movement changed?" and another section, "What has it not changed?" By adding both of these sections, the author provides 2 sides of information and compares the pros and cons of the movement. The Me Too movement has helped shape society by allowing men and women to speak about their past traumas. Throughout the decades, standardized testing has taken over important school time and reflects teachers and students in ways that do not always demonstrate their strengths. Students sit in school for about 20 to 25 hours a year taking unnecessary tests that are required by the government. An educational article headlined, "Confirmed, Standardized Testing Has Taken Over Our Schools, But Who's to Blame?" written by Valerie Strauss on October 24, 2015, is about the negative feedback given to schools and state governments by concerned parents and students regarding standardized testing and how these tests do not benefit any students whatsoever. I chose to read this article because standardized testing is something that I am passionate about because they do not test intelligence, nor do they better anyone's education. Rather, they test students' test-taking abilities. Furthermore, this article has impacted society by making parents and community members aware of all the problems that standardized testing has caused in elementary schools, middle schools, and even in high schools. In addition, standardized tests have increased the competitiveness in certain cities, especially those like Bloomfield Hills, which can lead to the students experiencing anxiety. The intended audience of this article is parents, teachers, students, and anybody else who wants to be informed about how standardized testing impacts education in addition to some educators' jobs. The spark or the exigence for this article was standardized testing influencing teachers' jobs and students' daily education. In fact, some educators have threatened to quit their job because of their disbelief in standardized testing being beneficial for their students. Additionally, the line of reasoning in this article is very well crafted because there are statistics along with other evidence to support the thesis statement from the beginning of the article. There is no rebuttal paragraph, so the author is ensuring that the readers are going to take her side on this argument. In my opinion, the line of reasoning does support the overarching thesis because people of all ages, specifically students and teachers, have been influenced by standardized testing. My article is informing those who are unaware of the negative consequences about why these unnecessary tests should be removed from all schools in America. The organization of the article does create unity and coherence because the author, Strauss, starts out by asking a question to the readers to make them think. Strauss then makes her claim that she argues throughout the rest of the article. The whole article flows smoothly because the author breaks up her evidence and reasoning into smaller paragraphs. In these paragraphs, there are not too many complex sentence structures, so the author can get straight to the point about her claims. This is an example of syntax because the author wants to get her message across very clearly, and she does this by using simple grammatical structures and words that are not too difficult to understand. In relation to this, the author uses words such as school systems, exams, and anti-testing rebellion that are repeated throughout the article to enforce her claim. Finally, an example of comparison that is found in the text is when the author discusses a statistic and then further talks about how it does not display her findings. It says, the study, interestingly, doesn't mention the 20% rate in New York. In conclusion, standardized tests are extremely harmful to students and teachers all across America.
Throughout the article titled Hurricanes, published on December 2, 2019, the author, Ryan Trushula, reflects upon every year of the past decade as he highlights the most memorable and impactful hurricanes. The category of my event falls under natural disasters, and the event is described as hurricanes in the 2010s. Additionally, Trushula describes the hurricanes through which category they fall in and their given names in order to emphasize the groundbreaking effect they had on the world and society. Trushula also focuses on the fact that although the 2010s was a significant decade for extreme hurricanes, America was quite lucky in only experiencing about 3, which is very small compared to the other countries in the world. Because hurricanes are about 300 miles wide, they affect a great majority of the population. With their destructive and catastrophic features, an enormous number of homes have been demolished and lives have been lost. The production of foundations, organizations, and charities have caught the public eye of many individuals, including celebrities. Not only have these hurricanes caused a great amount of damage to human lives and homes, the habitat of many animals and wildlife have been wiped out as a result. The author wrote this article to reflect upon the past decade, insinuating that it has been one of the deadliest eras of hurricanes. Ryan Trushula, the author of this article, has a PhD and is the co-founder, president, and chief meteorologist of Weather Tiger. He has also appeared on several world-known media outlets. When reading an article about hurricanes, it is imperative that the writer is very knowledgeable and has had years of experience in studying the overall field of natural disasters. Trushula expressed his message by structuring the article chronologically. I believe this is the best way to organize this particular article because the author provides specific details for every individual year regarding hurricanes in the past decade. The hurricanes that occurred in the 2010s are one of the most important events of the past decade due to the fact that they destroyed an abundance of homes and habitats of humans and animals. In organizing the text, Trushula incorporated videos, photos, and graphs to help the reader understand the context. Trushula utilized words that hold a dramatic value in order to convey the impact and aftermath of the hurricanes. For example, these impacts were exacerbated by Tropical Storm Lee. Trushula's use of the word exacerbate accentuates how the Tropical Storm Lee worsened the impacts. Throughout the article titled, In 1 Year, 57,375 Years of Life Were Lost to Police Violence, published on May 8, 2018, the author Olga Kazan looked back at the last 10 years as she highlighted the pivotal and memorable moments related to police brutality and the correlation to race and age of the victim. The category of my event falls under violence, and the event is classified under deaths by police officers in the 2010s. High percentages showed that the victim was often African American, Hispanic, or white. Kazan also focused primarily on the years left to live after they had been killed. Over the past decade, police brutality in America has significantly increased. All over the country, innocent lives have been lost due to ignorant and racist police officers. As a result, protests have occurred, families, friends, and more are left grieving the loss of their loved ones. It is also suggested by many that this significant event in time has somewhat sparked the gun control movement. The spark that most likely inspired Kazan to write this piece was not only the shockingly high amount of lives lost every year, but also the years left to live after the victim is shot. Another possible factor could be that 1/4 of individuals killed by police officers happen to show signs of mental illness. Olga Kazan is a staff writer for the well-known news source The Atlantic. In her work, she often covers science, health, and gender, making her more than qualified to address these important problems. In order to convey her message, Kazan referenced specific studies and statistics as she showed how common police brutality is and how many lives it has affected. Police brutality in the 2010s were one of the most significant events in the past decade because several thousands of lives were lost, many of which were innocent. Personally, I believe this article lacked in structural organization. There was not a clear line of reasoning. While reading, I felt bombarded with overwhelming facts, numbers, and statistics. I believe that something that could have helped the reader's understanding of the text would be relating current events to historic events. I also think Kazan should have implemented specific cases that have happened in order to provide examples of real-life scenarios.
Under entertainment comes Robin Williams' tragic suicide. My article on this event is titled Comedy vs. Tragedy, The Legacy of Robin Williams, with the headline, A New Documentary and a Biography on the Late Actor Re-Examines His Life, His Career, and His Need for Laughs by Any Means Necessary. Written by Keith Phipps for The Rolling Stone, the article was published on September 13, 2018. Most remember Robin Williams as an ever-present source of joy and laughter. His lead roles in Hollywood blockbusters shaped the entertainment industry as we know it today. In August 2014, Williams took his own life after privately battling addiction and depression since the early 1980s. I chose this event because I grew up watching Robin Williams' movies, and seeing someone I had only known as eternally energetic and happy take his own life was traumatic. Williams' legacy as an actor and comedian is more complicated than most realize. Posthumously, a book and a biography were released about the life of Robin Williams. The documentary, Robin Williams, Come Inside My Mind, focuses on the happy aspects of Williams' career as an entertainer, while the book, Robin, focuses on the lows of his personal life and his battle with addiction and depression. Article author Keith Phipps was inspired to write this piece because he saw a unique opportunity to re-examine Williams' legacy by analyzing these two media sources. The message behind this event is that there's a lot more to most people than we realize, and reaching out to those you care about can go a long way. This event is one of the top 10 most important stories of the decade because it changes the way that society perceives the legacy of Robin Williams. The two sides of Robin Williams, comedy and tragedy, are shown in this article by comparing and contrasting the two media sources that embody both of his different life tones. My article supports my line of reasoning well by comparing and contrasting these two sources, and the story itself is a good representation of Williams' complicated life. Phipps uses a lot of comparisons in this story, mainly to contrast the two media sources. Words like whereas and similes help show the differences between the two stories transparently, and Phipps does a great job of that. My article on this event is titled 2 Years of NFL Protests Explained, with the headline, Why a Protest Against Racial Injustice Became a Political Hot Potato. Written by Jane Coaston for Vox, the article was published on September 4th, 2018. After the killing of several unarmed black men by white police officers, former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick decided to take action against police brutality in America by kneeling during the national anthem before games. What started as a harmless protest quickly spiraled into chaos, and the NFL was caught in the middle of a political battle over free speech. President Trump even commanded conservatives around the country to boycott the league and Kaepernick himself. However, Kaepernick stood his ground and argued that his peaceful protest was allowed, at the cost of his NFL career. As of January 15, 2020, Colin Kaepernick is not on an NFL roster. In fears of being boycotted and the financial repercussions for the league, NFL owners have purposely kept him off their rosters. Later, Nike sided with Kaepernick and he became the face of Nike and their Just Do It campaign, causing their stock to rise by $26 billion. Kaepernick has impacted millions across the world. He reminds us to stand firm for what we believe in, even if it costs you everything. Author Jane Coaston wrote this article to clear up confusion over the timeline of events that led to this situation. As with all political controversies, misinformation and conspiracy theories run amok in this event, and Coaston took it upon herself to use her platform to write about the truth. Kneeling is not a resolved issue in the NFL. This event is one of the most important stories of the decade because of the potential consequences that an NFL boycott could have on the U.S. economy and civil rights. My line of reasoning is supported by the organization of the text because Coaston clearly lays out what actions have what consequences in this timeline. Stylistically, this article is purposely mundane, yet simple to understand. The point of this article is to make a complicated issue easy to understand, and one of the most effective ways to accomplish that goal is with simple word choice and syntax, and Coaston does that beautifully.